September 15th, 2025, 4:18 p.m. local time, Southern Caribbean Sea, a Getty-class Venezuelan patrol vessel breaks the horizon, and then she turns, hard to port, steering a deliberate, single-minded course straight at a U.S. Navy destroyer transiting legally in international waters. Aboard the USS Knights, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, the bridge goes quiet in the way only trained crews can. Every movement suddenly measured, every eye fixed. There is no radio call, no warning, just steel, roughly 2,300 tons, accelerating, bow plowing a clean wake as it climbs toward 22 knots. At this range, under 12 nautical miles, there is no room for soft words. Seconds become decisions. 4:11 p.m. The Combat Information Center calls it a contact. The Spy 1D arrays picked it up at 21 nautical miles. At first, a routine blip, then a signature change, speed climbing, course tightening. The CIC designates it Track Sierra 179. Getty-class hull, twin mast arrays forward, an OTO Malera 76mm forward gun, a hull acoustic and radar signature already cataloged from prior encounters. Someone in CIC mutters the class name, not out of alarm, but because familiarity matters. Recognition shortens reaction time. Unidentified contact altering course, the CIC officer says through the headset. The officer of the deck runs the checklist aloud. CPA under 3 miles and decreasing. The captain's order is calm and exact. Maintain ROE, log everything. Hail once, then go active. The bridge echoes the words like a mantra. Procedure is oxygen here. First hail, bridge to bridge, English. Second hail, Spanish, no response. This isn't a communication failure. This is a choice. Long-range cameras lock. The 5-inch gun slews a hair, enough that its shadow becomes visible on the Venezuelan ship's radar cross-section. Subtle, deliberate. The Knight switches modes, presence over provocation, documentation over escalation. The SLQ-32 begins to log emissions. Every ping, chirp, burst, stored. Every sensor is a witness. 4:15 p.m. Flight deck crews begin securing sensor pods, rigging restraint on the embarked MH-60R Seahawk. Flares loaded. Checklist ticked. The Seahawk is not dispatched to fire. It deploys to see, to be seen, to record. In these encounters, the difference between a stern radio call and a helicopter's shadow can be the difference between explanation and headlines. At 4:22 p.m., the Venezuelan vessel's speed spikes, 26 knots now, diesel turbines hammered to a higher FRPM, exhaust haze trailing. CIC calls it out. Acceleration confirmed. Intent is positive toward intercept. The helmsman tightens his grip. Helm rings the last rudder order to steady an evasive microdegree. The ship's bridge goes quieter still. You can hear the soft hum of pumps and the distant chirp of a radio. Time to CPA, 6 minutes. The navigation team reports. A spreadsheet in CIC updates automatically. A scribe writes in a physical log. Every action, every order, every hail time stamped. The law of the sea is enforced as much by paperwork as by weapons. If this goes wrong, the first piece of evidence will be the logbook. Deck observers pick out people topside on the Venezuelan patrol craft. Helmets, life vests, jackets flapping. Hands near the gun mount but not on triggers. Helmets point, binoculars raised. The posture is tactical, visible, threatening, but not yet kinetic. The Knights responds exactly as the ROE dictates. Visibility and documentation. 4:26 p.m., the Seahawk breaks off the deck, rotors a blur, pilots brief eyes only over the comms. Do a wide orbit, bring FLIR up, do not close below safe separation. The helicopter drops to about 200 feet, banking low to amplify the psychological effect. A long shadow across the water, a reminder of what a nimble platform can do. Its MX-20 turret sends high-res thermal imagery back to the Knights in real time. Every face, every cluster of sailors topside, every engine exhaust plume is time-stamped and GEO tagged, evidence in motion. The Venezuelan ship scans back. SLQ-32 registers a service search sweep from their radar, low power, not locked with fire control tone, but active. The Electronic Warfare Watch calls it They're painting us. Low-power search mode. That's tracking intent targeting behavior without an overt weapon tone. A line has been drawn. The Seahawk sensor operator pulses a green laser on the Venezuelan bridge windows. Non-lethal, unmistakable, humiliating if you will. A voice, crisp and measured, fills the maritime band in English, then Spanish. Venezuelan naval vessel. This is a U.S. Navy helicopter. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Change course now, or you will be recorded as a hostile contact. The phrase, recorded as a hostile contact, is precise language chosen to preserve legal options. For a beat, a dozen heartbeats, the Venezuelan bridge is a hive of motion. Binoculars lift. Someone waves a hand, a gesture, a signal, defiance, or confusion. The Seahawk operator zooms in and captures thermal faces and hand motions. The video feed is locked, redundant, and immediately written to multiple storage arrays. Inside Venezuelan CIC, their radar tracks the Seahawk. No fire control tone yet, but their own broadcasts show a shift from silent assertion to diplomacy. A crackling voice comes over in accented English and Spanish. United States naval vessel. We are conducting sovereign patrols in proximity to Venezuelan waters, requesting you alter course. It's not an apology. It's a claim. The Knights answers with the language of law and recording devices rather than volume. This is a U.S. warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Your movements are being recorded. Unsafe maneuvers will be treated as escalatory. The words are blunt and unnecessarily theatrical. They are meant to be recorded, quoted, and replayed. 4:32 p.m. The Venezuelan vessel reduces speed to 19 knots and makes a slight turn, a few degrees off interception. Deck crews step away from the gun. One sailor raises both palms, universal for no hostile intent. Engines sigh. Tension eases by inches. The Seahawk maintains station, sensors locked, side-mounted cameras recording second by second. The Knights watches the retreat. CIC continues to log everything. Radar tracks, emissions, audio files, timestamps, GEO tags. The memory cards will be evidence if needed at a later tribunal, or in the court of public opinion. This incident did not come from nowhere. 2 weeks earlier, on September 2nd, 2025, U.S. Southern Command publicly confirmed kinetic neutralizations of 2 Venezuelan smuggling vessels in international waters, high-volume synthetic opioid runners that ignored repeated warnings. Those strikes were surgical, drones, operating under Coast Guard jurisdiction with Navy ISR support. Washington's message was sharp. Trafficking that threatens U.S. shores will be interrupted, even in international waters. Caracas did not accept that silently. Within days, Venezuelan patrol patterns changed. Ships pushed farther offshore. Routes became erratic and theatrical. Low, slow overflights by Venezuelan light attack jets were logged on September 10th, flying within international airspace, but close enough to be the maritime equivalent of a finger tapped on an aircraft's fuselage. They collected data. They sent a signal. We can play this game too. This encounter with the Knights fits that pattern. It was not intended to sink ships or start a war. It was theater, calibrated pressure, a test of legal and political boundaries. Venezuela's maritime doctrine emphasizes presence and friction rather than parity in firepower. They create complications, headlines, and diplomatic quandaries. They force policymakers to weigh risk and reward. The Knights crew executed the textbook response: presence first, escalation avoidance next, and meticulous documentation throughout. The real weapon that day wasn't the 5-inch gun or the Slam-R tube. It was the Seahawk's sensor package and the ship's paper trail. In the modern maritime contest, memory cards and metadata matter as much as missile tubes. Evidence becomes leverage. By 4:38 p.m., the Venezuelan patrol craft hangs off the Knights' starboard quarter at roughly 6 nautical miles. At 4:45 p.m., the Seahawk is lashed back on deck. The Venezuelan vessel slows further and eventually drops to a watchful distance near 9 nautical miles. No shots were fired, no flares, just a sustained, controlled exchange of posture and proof. So, what happened? A line was tested, pressed, and then quietly respected. The encounter produced no headlines of violence, only a trove of logged data, time-stamped imagery, and firm diplomatic language. But it also left a question mark. Proximity, politics, and perception make the Caribbean a continual flashpoint. When deterrence and demonstration replace dialogue, tomorrow's encounter might not end this calmly. Should the U.S. respond more aggressively to these maritime provocations, more helicopters, harsher radio language, or even kinetic deterrence, or does measured restraint, backed by rigorous documentation and legal clarity, preserve advantage without accidental escalation? That's the political and strategic question. Drop your take in the comments. I'll read them all. If you want more granular, real-world encounters like this, where navies posture, record, and calculate their moves down to the meter, subscribe to Navy Media. Join the fleet to support the channel. Loyalty badges, priority replies, and deeper dives into the tactics you're watching in real time. One ship, one helicopter, one memory card, and a geopolitical message delivered in the quiet language of rules, optics, and presence. The Knights didn't fire. Venezuela didn't score a headline victory, but the sea remembered. Next time Caracas wants to play chicken with a destroyer, they might do a little better to pick a smaller bird.